was born in Searcy, Arkansas, in north central part of the state, on December the 12th, 1946. My parents are Ernest and Harold Beaver, longtime residents, country farmers out in the hills. I started to Pleasant Plains School in 1952, first grade, where I met my wife for the first time, and graduated there in 1964. There were 16 of us in our graduating class, 8 girls and 8 boys. All 8 of the girls were still living, but only 4 of the guys were left. She beat me at the 3rd decimal on the grade point to get to be valedictorian, and I was salutatorian, and that's fine. She got some scholarships to go to the University of Central Arkansas, Arkansas State Teachers College at that time, and I went to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, pursued a degree in civil engineering, graduated in 1969, commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant in the Air Force, May the 31st, 1969. My dad, he had long been a patriot, and Mom too. The concern is always, that's Vietnam, and that's part of the reason why I went with the ROTC and Air Force ROTC after 2 years, which was at that time mandatory that you take ROTC for 2 years, and then after that you can choose to go into advanced ROTC, and which is what I did. And I had never been in the air. I mean, that was my, the first time I was ever in the air. One of the instructors at the university had arranged for a T-29 older airplane to fly us all to Eglin Air Force Base down in Florida on a field trip of sorts. So we went, stayed a couple of days down there, and that was my first time in the air. It was probably 1967, 68. Everybody, not everybody, but everybody who was looking to have some choices during the Vietnam era rather than being drafted, for the most part chose to go into the advanced ROTC. And that's part of the reason. I had no idea what my draft number would be. Didn't make any difference. So I chose to go in that direction. August 1969 was the first active duty at Big Spring, Texas, at Webb Air Force Base. My wife and I would never been there. Interstate wasn't completed at the time, so we did a lot of country driving to get there. It was strange to us type place, semi-desert, hotter than the dickens in the summertime, pretty cold when the wind blowing in the wintertime. 6 weeks after we got married in '68, I had a assignment to go to a summer camp, ROTC summer camp, which is part of the advanced ROTC. Went to March Air Force Base in Riverside, California. Spent 6 weeks out there. Interesting experience. I've got a photograph of my group there that get up at 5 o'clock, run a mile, do a bunch of exercises, then go eat breakfast. And then we had classes and training and so on like that. It's pretty busy schedule. Pilot training class 7102. At the initial, it was 3561st Pilot Training Squadron. It later was changed to the 82nd, but still yet it was a T-37 was the first. No, actually the first plane I flew was a T-41, which is a Cessna they said to weed out the folks that couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time, sort of thing. If you just weren't cut out to be a pilot, and then we went into the T-37, which is at the time was the first jet that an Air Force pilot got to fly, side by side, not very fast, pretty good acrobatic, made a lot of noise, and like I said, side by side, student and instructor, and flew that for 4.5 months, and then after that we transitioned to the T-38 supersonic trainer, which they still fly as the advanced trainer in the Air Force, and they've not made one of those planes since 1972. A unique experience, really, having not spent much time, but you know, I'd had my early time in the Cessna, small Cessnas, and I kind of knew what I was doing, and but they were all yoke planes. 37, it's got a stick. You had to learn that transition as a non-pilot. How to describe it? It's the only plane in the Air Force at that time where you practiced spins. So we would go up to 22,500 feet, force it into a stall, create rotation, and make it spin. There's only one spin recovery procedure. Nothing else works other than that one. So you had to do it right once you got into spin to get out. Some of the students I got to be good acquaintances with, and I've kept up with over the years. 37, you know, you don't go very fast, very far. We'd take some cross-country trips, and later, as an instructor, I'd take a student to Fort Bliss and El Paso and walk across the border at that time at Juarez. You know, no problem. All you had to do is just say you were an American citizen. You didn't have to show any paperwork or anything. A little different now. We would occasionally fly down to San Antonio, and as an instructor, we'd go to Corpus and Oklahoma City, and you know, like I said, not far because you had to get back. I'm terrible about car sick and air sick. From my early days, I get really severe car sick going over Ticklebelly Hills. Just stir me up. And now when I go over Ticklebelly Hills, anything doesn't bother me because of my years of flying upside down, pulling negative G's. So I chose instructor pilot, and then I chose, or the part of the process was, would you like for your plane of choice to take precedent over your base of choice? And I said, no, I'd like my base of choice to take precedent over plane of choice, because we were there, and Webb wasn't bad, Big Spring wasn't bad. You had so we'd made friends, and were satisfied with that. So I came back. I was selected, received an assignment as an instructor pilot at T-37 at Webb Air Force Base. During that time, during the Vietnam era, we trained lots of foreign students. We trained Vietnamese students, a bunch of Iranians, back when the Shah was in charge in Iran. We Indonesian, Costa Ricans. One of my best students was a young fellow from Norway, Norwegian, by the name of Frank Johnson. I had odd named American students, but I had a foreign student by the name of Frank Johnson, and had an Italian student, Alberto Malavasi, and he would get me a token I like of him sometime. But he was a good student. So, you know, I had the variety. We were spinning with an Arabian student, and he tried a recovery, and we ended up in an inverted spin, a very uncomfortable situation, and his hands locked on the stick, and I couldn't get him to turn loose. And of course, we're spinning down from 22,500 feet at 550 feet per spin, and I would beat on his hand. I said, I'm going to have to decide whether we're going to jump out of this thing or not. So I grabbed his oxygen hose, squeezed it, and he couldn't breathe. So he turned loose the stick to grab his mask, and that's when I got the stick. And we recovered and came back immediately. We tried to impress on them these types of maneuvers, as you will learn a little bit more and a little bit more as you go to future planes, or for your own good. You need to pay attention as you progress up through your planes. It is a war, and we would see films and reports almost daily of what was going on in Vietnam, and hearing about how many pilots we would lost, how many soldiers we lost. Some of our instructors, one of mine that I flew with 2 or 3 times, also a University of Arkansas graduate, Tom Ebden was his name. It's tradition that you break your first set of wings for good luck, and so I broke mine right after I got them, and my wife pinned them on me, and I took them off and broke them. And Tom came up. He said, "Well, I didn't break mine." I said, "Yeah, and you got shot down in your F-100 too. You know, think about that." He said, "Oh yeah." So, well, I hope I did some good with the students that I had. I hope I was able to impress on them what I had learned about flying that particular airplane and how to be a pilot. Hopefully it stuck with them over the years, and some I have learned have done well, retired as colonels, and so I'm glad of that. I think to me it made me a patriot. Nobody is any more, TAPS tears me up, the national anthem tears me up. I'm a patriot. If you're so led to be of service to your country, follow it through at ROTC. It's a good program, and I wish it wasn't necessary, but as Roosevelt said, "Speak softly but carry a big stick," and it is something and an honor to serve your country, and especially as a pilot, especially wearing the uniform of this country.